guys, welcome to the Dragon's Voice podcast. I hope you've missed me so much because I've been on a bit of a break and I'm back with another podcast. So make sure you get the like, share, subscribe to the YouTube channel because I'm always up. I'm trying to upload every Friday, and also check out on Podbean my podcast as well, the audio format version. So it's all there for you guys. Sorry if I can't do it on Spotify because I don't know how to. But anyway, it doesn't matter, but we've got some more guests here coming for you now. And I'm very fortunate to have this guy on the show because I do highly rate him. I'm not trying to blow smoke up his backside or anything like that. I do value, rate this person very well as a goalkeeper. Former Caernarfon player, former TNS, former Rhyl. He's been around, he's had some success. And he's a current Bala Town goalkeeper. And I'm really dreading what's going to happen this Saturday, even though it's probably this podcast is pre-recorded. So it's Alex Ramsay. How's it going, Alex?
Very well, thanks, mate. Appreciate you asking me for joining. I think I've listened to a couple of yours already, mate. So I'm looking forward to a bit of a grilling, mate.
No, it's no problem. It's no problem at all. But I've, like I said, one of the names that does pop up in terms of Welsh Premier League players is you that I want to get on the show because you have that talent. I've seen it where, especially with Barry, going up against Bala and Caernarfon, but it was especially Caernarfon where I mostly saw the games, where Barry and Caernarfon played against, and top goalkeeper, I must say, fair play to you. I mean, I remember, I know we said it just before I started recording that, how the players are trying to get past you, but you've seen pretty, you've had some success with various clubs, but I'm too excited to not wait towards, halfway through it. I want to get down to the Caernarfon stuff because, I mean, you've had success, you've won the Cymru Alliance, and the support you get from the Covey Army, and you've probably seen two walls break down, so it's a mad what's it like with Caernarfon Town? What was it like to play for them?
Yeah, to be honest, I joined Caernarfon sort of not knowing an awful lot about the fan base, really. I mean, obviously you've heard rumours about they've got really good fans and whatnot. I spent 3.5 years there and I really, really enjoyed my time there and met some fantastic people. I mean, when I first joined, we were playing in the Cymru North, it was the Hughes Grey Alliance as it was that time. And we were getting sort of like 500-600 fans on a weekly basis. And then I played in a Boxing Day match against Portmaddock and it was just fucking mental, honestly. It was like 1,200 fans, Portmaddock, Caernarfon, and it was just going off. And I was just like, Jesus. And this was just in the league below. And obviously we got promoted from the Cymru North and came into the Welsh Prem. And again, like on a Friday night against TNS's, Connors Keys and whatnot, you're getting sort of 1,000, 1,100 fans. And as much as a little bit cliche, it does make the game so much better if you are playing in front of fans. And with all due respect to Caernarfon fans, they were top class, and they are top class. And obviously, I think the league itself has missed Caernarfon fans this year. I know obviously I'm not there, but it does give the league a little bit of a boost. It gives it a good sort of image from the outside if you've got 1,200, 1,300 fans. So they're carnage, mate. They are literally carnage. I've been on a couple of nights out with them, and they are bonkers.
Yeah, that's what some of the supporters at Barry as well, we tried to do with the players, and it's good. But so the relationship between, before I asked about the relationship between the players and the Caernarfon supporters, obviously, because you've been out with, you said you've been out with a few of the supporters, but when you've, because you played against Barry Town and of course home and away, what was it like, the fan base from your perspective between the Barry fans and the Caernarfon fans, because, you've seen the passionate sides of both. So what was it like to have that atmosphere around you? Did you feel like, right, this is a proper, football event?
Yeah, definitely. I think if you're looking at both sets of fans, I mean, Barry are well supported and it's one in the calendar that you probably look at and think home game Caernarfon versus Barry, there's going to be a good crowd there. There's going to be a little bit of atmosphere. There's going to be a lot of noise, certainly. So I think Barry have got a good reputation in the fact that they're well supported, that they're going to bring some good fans. And when you go there, it's a little bit of not so much a hostile environment because the ground is so open at Barry. It's just like you're trying to pick out the fans, but you can certainly hear them with the drum and whatnot. And no, it's definitely one that you sort of look at in the diary and look forward to that, certainly.
And so going on to the relationship between the Caernarfon supporters, then they look after you very well. It's a good relationship. So is there any particular moment that stands out for you that the Caernarfon fans have? Whether or not they defended you or have looked after you or taken you out somewhere. Is there any particular moment that stands out for you that holds a place in your heart with the Caernarfon fans?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they see me as a friend at the moment, just because obviously I left them and then they've just beaten us actually on the weekend, so I can't see them liking me at the moment. But there was we've had a couple of really good home wins on a Friday night. We beat TNS on a Friday night. And there must have been about 1,150 fans, and we always went and sort of gave them a clap after the game, and they were sort of singing. They were singing this stupid chant that they sing about me, and it was a bit of a goosebumps feeling really, because they all crowd behind the goal and they're singing your name and whatnot. I know it's the Welsh Prem and whatnot, but it was really, really good, and that will always stick out to me. That one sort of moment. It was on film as well, so I've sort of got that. So. They were great, mate. They were really, really good. They followed the team home and away, and they were class. Like every good performance a lad puts in on the pitch, they were always you'd always have a message straight after the game when you go on your phone saying "Well done, mate," blah 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 blah. So it's, mate, they're good as gold. Like I said, they don't seem too favourable now, but they were class to play under, honestly.
Yeah. It's like with the players, they like breaking down barriers, but the Caernarfon supporters like to break down walls, Yeah.
I played in that game, which killed us, mate, to be fair, because it was a playoff semi-final against Cardiff Met at home, the one I played in, and we were on top. We were 1-0 up. And then, we had just gone 1-0 up, and obviously the wall went down, and it just killed momentum of the game, and we sort of just lost momentum, and then ended up losing the game sort of 3-1. So, but you can't sort of fault their enthusiasm to get around the players, to be fair.
And did you play in any of the derbies between Bangor and Caernarfon? Because I think there was one in the Welsh Cup, which was at Bangor's ground. So what was that like for you to be playing in that particular derby? Because it's a very fierce one, considering, it is Welsh Premier League or the Welsh League system of football. It's not... I don't want to narrow it down because I've seen some of the footages and everything, and it is a very intense rivalry. You could say it is sort of the North Wales derby comparing to like Cardiff and Swansea with their South Wales derby. So what was that like to be playing in that particular match?
Yeah, that was a bit of a funny one really, because the anticipation that the weeks leading up to the match, you saw how many tickets had been sold, and it was creeping up, and it was getting towards the 2,000 mark. And all the players were like, "What is going on here?" Like, I've never played in front of a crowd like that. Turned up at the ground, and it was actually belting down with rain, and there was massive doubt whether the game was going to go on. And obviously, everyone had bought their tickets, and all the players were desperate to get the game on. And even in the water, I think they brought the Caernarfon fans in first. There's 1,000 Caernarfon fans, and they split them up and whatnot. So even in the warm-up, the ground was absolutely bouncing. I brought a couple of mates up who played professional cricket, and they didn't know much about the Welsh Prem, and they looked at it and they're like, "Fucking hell! Like, this is actually it's decent." So it was a great game to play, and obviously it helped that we won. I mean, the second half when I played in front of the Bangor fans, I got dogs abuse. Like, I got coins thrown at me, everything. The referee was stopping it because coins were being thrown at me. But that was that was a top game to play, and that was a really, really enjoyable game.
Do you know what? If you had like a bit of a wallet or something and coast, I would have gone, "Oh, thank you. That's going to go in my money box." Thank you very much. Yeah. First round's on you. I've never I've always looked forward to games with Caernarfon and Bangor, and especially teams of North Wales, because there seems to be a bit of a rivalry between the North teams and the Southern teams, but especially around with Barry, because I think because of the success they've had back in the day or whatever. But I was always looking forward to I remember when Bangor City, when they were in the Welsh Premier League, and it was ironic because it was our first season back in the Welsh Premier League and Bangor's last season in the Welsh Premier League because of the problems they had. And I had so much hope that they would bring in a good, decent crowd to the game where we were coming back and playing at their ground, and there were fans there, but it wasn't as much as a following that we saw at Caernarfon. We were a bit let down, but we didn't know at the time what was going on with them, and I found out sometime after from the club secretary of Bangor 1876. So it was a bit upsetting because we were just really going, right, Bangor, Caernarfon, let's do this, have it. We're gonna have a bumping trips here. Let's do this, and then go to Bangor. We're like, and then we go to Caernarfon. We go, Jesus Christ, here we go. I got all the respect and a lot of time for Caernarfon supporters. It's so funny because I was the one who brought the drums with me. And we had these rubbish drumsticks. They were cheap. And, and I remember it was a time when we actually won at the Oldville. Marcus Jones scored against you. It was in the dying minute. But I remember halfway through.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, but I remember the Cavi Army were going, stick your fucking drum up your ass. And then I just gave the drum a bit of a whack and the stick just went snap and went, and everyone, all the Covey fans went, well done. Yeah, you just proved our point. And we just went, and because there was only 6 of us or 8 of us, we all just went like that, went, okay, just move on, just throw the drum somewhere, hide. But then it was afterwards though, where the coach driver who took, because we traveled with the players, and the coach driver went through some parts of North Wales, and our club secretary was sat at the front, and some of us were sat at the back with the players, just talking to him. And you get that little barrier thing at the front of the coaches, and the club secretary was leaning like that, and he just popped his head up like a meerkat, just went, "Where are we?" And then we all just looked around. We were nowhere. We were not in Wales anymore. We were just halfway into Liverpool. We were there going, "Oh, great!" And Luke Cooper, the defender, just went, "It's all right, lads. Let's have a fun night in Liverpool." It's like, no, we got to get home. It's like I was brassic because I had to stay overnight with the players and everything. So I was there going, "How am I gonna?" And I just said to the players, "Well, if we're going into Liverpool, you're paying for my hotel room. I don't give a shit." So.
Some jeans on and get out.
Yeah. It was so funny. But another North Wales team I want to mention that you have played for was Rhyl. Is it exactly similar to Bangor and Caernarfon in terms of their support and in terms of, because they folded, bless them, but now they're restarting. But what was it like to play for Rhyl? Because I think you were on loan, was it twice or something that you played?
So I went on loan as a youngster. I think I was about 18 the first time I went to Rhyl. 18 or 19, and I played in the Cymru North and like the Hughes Grey Alliance from TNS, and we won that. We actually won that season. We went unbeaten. We didn't lose a game. And then it came to the end of the season, and I was thinking I didn't really want to play full time anymore. I wanted to go into sort of more of my coaching career, and TNS offered me a contract which I sort of turned down to go and play at Rhyl part time and coach full time. So that was, and I spent 2 years. Yeah, I think I spent 2 years at Rhyl playing in the Welsh Prem, which was good, mate. To be fair, I would say that the rivalry between Rhyl and Bangor is even fiercer than Bangor and Caernarfon. We were lucky enough to sort of play some Boxing Day games against Bangor, home and away, and they were very, very well attended. And we actually managed to do okay in those games. But again, with Rhyl, obviously, it's such a shame what's happened to them, because I played in front of some fantastic crowds at Rhyl, and the ground itself is one of the nicest Welsh grounds I've played at, certainly. But again, was looked after really well at Rhyl. Some good people, Greg Strong and whatnot. He was my manager there. He was a good guy. So really enjoyed my time there, mate. Yeah.
And was there any highlights for you at Rhyl? Because I think you're one of the first. It could be Mark Lloyd. I don't know if he played for Rhyl, but I think you're one of the first ones, former Rhyl players I've got on the show. So is there any particular moment that stands out for you, apart from winning, obviously, the Cymru North or the Hughes Grace Alliance title? Was there any highlight for you while you're at Rhyl that sticks out in your mind?
That, again, just the day we won the Hughes Grey Alliance, it was away at, who did we play? We played at Ryder Town away on a Saturday, and I don't know if you've been to Ryder Town, but it is so far away. And we managed to get loads and loads of fans down there. I think we only needed a point, and I think we won the game 1-0 in the end. and the celebrations after the game were just wild, because it was such a big thing for Rhyl to sort of go back up into the league. So that certainly sticks out to me. We did okay. We played. We actually lost in the playoff final the first season I was there in the Welsh Prem. We lost against Bangor away in the playoff final to get Europe. So that was sort of memorable in the wrong ways, but it was a good game to play in because, again, it was very, very well attended. Obviously, Rhyl Bangor derby in the playoff final to get Europe. It was huge game. So that was a top game to play, and I don't actually think I played particularly well in that game, if I'm honest. But no, but I've met some really good people at Rhyl. Again, it's a top club and very well attended. So I'm sure we'll see them rise up through the leagues, no doubt, because there's some good people there.
Yeah, and I always thought that Caernarfon or Bangor or Rhyl were the furthest, or Llan did know that we gone and played against, but it's just it's like some of the guys I've spoken to, they said, you think that's far, try going to Holyhead or something like that, and I'm thinking to myself, I dread the day.
That's not a nice place to go to, I tell you.
Well, what's it like there? Is it not?
It's always windy. It's so open. So you turn up, and every game I played there is just a hurling wind. So it's just like one half. As a goalkeeper, I hate playing against the wind as well. So you've just got balls peppered at you for 45 minutes, and then if you manage to get through that, it's not so bad because then you can lump them upfield, and it's just kick them as far as you can, really, which is what I do anyway.
Is it playing with the wind then? It's just just trying to kick it downfield and try and get it as low as possible, or
Yeah, what I try and do is just get it as far away as my goal as I can. But it's against the wind is tough, mate. When you're playing against a hurling wind and you kick it as hard as you can, and it just lands outside your 18-yard box. And fucking hell, I've got 45 minutes of this.
So one club I'm going to mention before it seems to me I'm going to go back in time a bit, but I'll make sure I mention a few other things. But one club I've got to mention is Caersws, because you were on loan at the club, and I don't know if it's this one or it was another club, but what's his name? Mickey Evans was his name.
Evans, yeah.
Was he there when you went on loan to?
He was my first manager, so I went on loan when I was. To be honest, it was a bit of a weird one because I did the scholarship at TNS and I was 16, 17. To be honest, I wasn't that arsed on playing. I didn't think I could play at an okay level. I was pissing around my mates loads of times and with the college games and playing outfield. And then I played a couple of good games in goal, and then I just thought, fuck it, I'm going to give this a bit of a go. I was training regularly with the first team and whatnot. And then my second year scholar, so I was like 17, I went on loan to Caersws, which Mickey Evans was in charge. And he's an elderly bloke. He's such a lovely guy, Mickey Evans, and he was great for me. And I went there when I was 17, walked into the changing room. I wasn't really comfortable with sort of getting fucking naked when showering and stuff like that. It was just all new to me. It was mad. It was crazy, but there was loads of grown men. I was 16, 17. I was just like, wow, I'm well out of my comfort zone here. But it was great. It was unbelievable. Played in the Cymru North again. I've played some seasons in that now. I played in the Cymru North, and we had a really good team. We had Graham Evans, who's like a Welsh Prem legend, sort of played for Aberystwyth and whatnot. Mickey's son. He had just joined us from Aberystwyth, and I think we finished third in the season. And I did really well as a 17-year-old. I picked up Young Player of the Year. So I scooped the awards that the awards do. And that was unbelievable, mate. That was such a good introduction to senior football because it was just surrounded by good people. And Mickey Evans was unbelievable. He was such a good guy to play for just because I had so much respect for him. And I still keep in contact with Mickey regularly and Graham. But it was great. It was really good. We had a good cup run. I think we got knocked out by Port Talbot in the Welsh Cup. But it was just good, mate. It was just a really, really good year and a good introduction to senior football, certainly.
Is Mickey still at Caersws, or has he gone on to other things now? I don't
think he certainly goes and watches them. Whether or not he's actually, I don't think he's manager. I think Mark Griffiths is manager actually, which is Mickey's son-in-law. So I think he probably has a little bit to do with him. Whether or not he takes the famous team talks in the half time again, I'm not sure. But
it's all running in the family. It's all in the family
Yeah,
then.
he passes it down. I know Graham had a bit of a spell as gaffer, and then he's just passing it down to Mark. But again, Mark and Graham, great guys, really, really good guys, and people I've got a lot of time for.
So let's talk about TNS then, because I know you had the scholarship, you know, and you were only a young kid. So this is got to be around about the time where, coming into the late noughties, early 2010s or something like that. Just correct me if I'm wrong anyway.
No, it's right.
So who was it? Craig Harrison's Green and White Army that, or is it
Mike Davis actually signed me? So I don't know if you remember Mike Davis. Again, he's a really good family friend and whatnot, and he gave me my first contract at TNS. And then halfway through my first season, I remember we lost. I was on the bench all that year for the first season. And I remember we lost a game at Affin Lido, I think. And I just think he just had enough. All the players could sort of see it in his eyes that he'd had enough. And then it just sort of came the next day that he said he was leaving. And then Craig Harrison came in, who was great. I've got an awful lot of time for Craig. I think his man management is outstanding. And I was lucky enough to play in that year where, I played I was on the bench for 2 or 3 years where they had a top team. Like Scotty Rusko was playing, Greg Draper was bagging in goal, Steve Evans and Pip, and obviously Paul Harrison was flying, Spender, Marriott, all those people that were just in their peak. And it was a pleasure to watch. I was lucky enough to be involved in some unbelievable European ties, home and away. And it was just a really good experience, mate. I didn't play as much as I'd like, obviously, because H is a top keeper. I think I played one game at Newtown in what was it called? It was something called it was a League Cup or something like that. And I had a howler. I was only young, played away at Latham Park when it was grass. And a ball was coming through. I think Spender passed it back to me. Gone to smash it, bobbled over my foot, and then someone's popped it in. And I was like, oh, fuck. I don't think I'm a gig in the league anyway. But no, it was good. It was good. TNS was good. Again, they allowed me to go on loan to Rhyl, which is really beneficial to my career at the time. So I've got a lot of respect for TNS. I still speak to a number of people down there that I'm close with.
With that in mind, just keeping on to TNS for a moment, did you ever any encounters with Harris? I keep forgetting his first name. I don't know if it's Mark or Mike Harris.
Mike Harris, yeah.
Yeah, Mike Harris. Did you ever come across him? And if you have, what's he like as a person? Because he can be a very, an interesting character, let's just say, because his contribution to the club, and some people, are very divided by, the way he approaches the Welsh Premier League. But what if you have what was he like, just as a person, or the times you've just come across him?
I didn't deal with him so much when I was a youngster, really. I mean, what I will say about Mike is, if I see him now, he's a nice guy, really, really nice guy. I haven't got a bad word to say about Mike. The only time he sort of gives me some bad words is when he's behind my goal at either Caernarfon or Bala, and he abuses me a little bit. But listen, it's part and parcel of the game, isn't it? But again, you hear some stories about him coming into the changing room and whatnot, and maybe giving it to the players, but I guess that sort of shows his passion behind the club and behind the league, really. You can't fault what he's done. He's created a team that's been so dominant over the last sort of 10, 15 years in the Welsh Prem. So you hear stories, mate, don't you? I haven't got any to share, just because from face-to-face value, he's been good as gold with me, if I'm honest. He's been really good with me, and I've got a lot of time for Mike, to be fair.
And especially now, because Caernarfon have now taken, broken the sort of streak with TNS on the run, with winning the Welsh Premier League, or the Cymru Premier, however you want to pronounce it or say about it. But now it's like with Bala, because you're playing with them, it's now the top 3 chase. And of course you can mention Barry, because they're sort of always behind Bala, Caernarfon and TNS and everything now. But to you, from your perspective, have you noticed a change with the league? Not as a, we're going to change this, but have you noticed if the change is there, where there could be not just TNS winning title, but Bala could be on the run now, or Barry? Have you noticed that? Or
yes, definitely. Obviously, I played in the league when I was 19. And it was always TNS, and then there was like it finished second was a little bit sporadic, really. Some clubs might finish second one year and then the other ones. But what I find now is that the league itself, tactically, it's a lot more demanding, and it's improved dramatically. And whether that's down to the managers, I'm sure it will be. There's some really, really good managers within the league now. And obviously, look, the money helps. There's more money in the league now. There's better players in the league. So, and it's well broadcasted, the league. So I think it's quite an exciting league to play in. It helps with the European spots, no doubt. So you look at some of the top teams now. I mean, I joined Bala for that reason. I wanted to be up towards the top of the league and challenging for that league title. I mean, obviously it's taken a bit of a dip the last couple of games, and it's going to be difficult for us to win it. But Caernarfon are the most well-drilled side I've seen playing or just watching. They've got a set piece for every scenario, and I think that's half the battle when playing in the Welsh Prem. Is if you're organised and you're well drilled and you've got a good changing room. Honestly, that's half the battle. It really, really is. And we've got lads that want to work hard and want to run and have got a good team spirit. It's fucking half the battle. Honestly, it really, really is. And you're seeing that at Caernarfon, with all due respect. I'm not speaking out of turn. Teams might look at it and think teams had better players than us. But what we had a really, really good team spirit, and we were ready to run for the manager and also the club. And I see that at Bala now. Like, we've got a top changing room at Bala, one of the best changing rooms I've been in at Bala, honestly. And got some good people with a mix of youngsters and some experienced pros, and obviously the staff are great as well. So the league's going to get better and better, mate. I genuinely feel that. I think the league's going to get better and better, and it will attract better players as the years go on, certainly.
So you've got that camaraderie then, where you've got, the players that you need, and it's that togetherness just to get back, and hopefully with this season, it's like, I just want the season to be done with, to be honest with you.
Mate, I'm in that boat, yeah.
Yeah, and hopefully the next season it's a little bit more simpler and a lot better, and hopefully the fans can get back in. But I want to mention, because you mentioned European football, so who did you... because I did have it down. I don't know where my other note is, so God help me with this one. So, but you played European football, and who was it for? Was it for a variety of clubs, so like Bala or I would say Rhyl or TNS? So who did you?
It was. I experienced European football at TNS. So I never played. I never made an appearance, but I was on the bench for TNS. Some really good games. We played away at Cliftonville, home and away. There were some top teams, like really good atmosphere. We played away at Sweden one game. I can't remember who we played against. It will come to me after. But that, again, playing in massive stadiums, massive crowds. And then we played against Midtjylland, which is a very well-known European team who've done recently really well in European football recently, They were some really good games to play in, but it was always in the back of my mind that I've never made an appearance. And again, when I spoke to Colin about going into Bala in the summer, the European football was a massive sort of drag to me, and I desperately wanted to make an appearance in Europe, whether that be once or 10 times. And obviously, it was so different this year with Bala, just because obviously COVID struck and whatnot. There was only one tie played. Fucking hell, I can't even remember who we played now.
Oh, is it for Bala?
Yeah, we played away. Who did we play? Valletta. I can't even remember. Valletta, sorry, yeah, we played away at Valletta, and it was one of those games where it's like, well, listen, we've got 90 minutes here. It's no two legs, and we'd sort of done our homework on them, and we managed to win. So it was unbelievable, because that was my debut for Bala. I made a penalty save, and we won. That the club have never done in Europe in sort of 7 or 8 times try, and they've gone through the first qualifying round. So you can imagine the chairman was dancing around, because he's managed to make a few quid, and it was good. It was gold, mate. I couldn't have asked for a sort of better debut, and the sort of camaraderie that led after the game was unbelievable as well. So it was good, mate.
And just imagine, because you went up against Standard Liège in the following round, and that's a big club as well, big Belgian club to play against. I mean, I know it was away, but the experience must have been, thrilling, exciting. But it's just a shame that you can have a home and away, and had followers, fans, and everything. But what was it like to go up against Standard Liège?
Yeah, that was a tough one. We actually drew them at home. So we drew them at home. It actually came out of the pot, and we drew them at home. And I think there was Connors Key were playing at home as well, and I think all the players were really pushing for the tie to get reversed so we could go and play in their stadium and go to Belgium. Thankfully, Nigel managed to pull it off somehow, and we went to play. We went to play there, and you always train the night before at the stadium of the European game. So we went there on a Wednesday night. We trained. We walked into the stadium. We were like, oh, "Fuck, mate!" We were like, "This is unbelievable!" Like, it was massive. There was tunes blaring. It was a good game. I mean, thankfully, I did okay in that game as well. But it's just such a shame, mate. Like, you looked at their, you obviously did their research on Standard Liège prior to playing them, and the fan base is massive. It was just such a shame that we couldn't play in front of their fans, because I think that would have been a sort of experience that you just do not forget for the rest of your life. But I mean, hopefully we can qualify this year and then play against a similar sort of side next year. But it was good, mate. You're playing against some serious professionals there, and you could see how good they were. And thankfully we only lost 2-0 in the end.
Do you know what? It was funny, because I remember watching the game, and of course, I wouldn't really be supporting any Welsh Premier League team aside from Barry, but because it was in European football and you're representing Wales, and it's a huge opportunity. And I was actually glad that it was only 2-0, because I thought, you know what, that's, some people we make, in some professional levels in the football league, they go, "Oh no, we lost 2-0. How can?" But someone for like us, because of the experience and history of Welsh football when it comes to European competitions, it's not always been that outstanding, let's just say. So to go out and just concede 2 goals, it's not really that bad, to say the least. But going up against Standard Liège, you're kind of expecting a really competitive and somewhat difficult side, but it must have been, you got the pictures there to prove, like, hey, I played against Standard Liège, I've got the experience to say, but keeping on with Bala, one of the best games I've seen, but this is before you signed. It was just that 5-2 victory we had against Bala. We qualified for Europe. But when you went to Bala, how did that transfer happen? And what was the reason behind going to Bala as well?
Good question. Obviously, COVID struck and sort of put our season to the halt. And I'd forgotten about football, really. I didn't really speak to any club, and a certain club rang me up and sort of made me an offer very early on, when the season had been cancelled, and that sort of got me thinking and what I wanted to do and whatnot. I got on really well with Sean Eardley at Caernarfon, I must say. I think he's he's the nicest guys I've ever met in football. He is, and he's fucking wild as well as a manager. He's great to play under. And it was a bit of a tricky one. I knew there was going to be changes at Caernarfon that season. I certainly knew there was going to be changes. Obviously, Caernarfon's an hour and a half from me, so the travelling commitments were always going to be tough for another season alongside a full-time coaching role. So I know Colin pretty well. I've coached his son before, so I know him pretty well. So I always have regular conversations with him, and it just got up in topic of what my plans were, and I wasn't sure. I was out of contract, and we sort of spoke over the next couple of weeks, and he offered me something. So like I said earlier in the conversation, the big pull to Bala was, one, I wanted to be at the top of the league. I wanted to be, and with all due respect to Caernarfon, I didn't feel like I was going to do that with them. And European football, like I said, I always wanted to play in Europe, and Bala was an opportunity to go and tick off that goal of mine straight away. So, but I was a little bit sort of nervous going into Bala. Didn't really know an awful lot of the players. I'm lucky enough that one of my best mate, Will Evans, signed as well for Bala, so it was sort of going in there together. But it is unbelievable. It is such a good changing room there, and the people behind the scenes, even from Nigel to Ruth and the people that look after the club, are unbelievable, mate, honestly. And the Caersws and stuff like that, they're just fucking funny, mate. It's just a really, really good changing room. And I think after that game we won at Malta, it it was carnage. It was like, obviously it was COVID. We went into the hotel, and there was no people staying there barely because of COVID. We couldn't go out. So usually Welsh Prem clubs go out, and they sort of go out in Malta. Couldn't go out, and then I think Nigel, the chairman, had sorted out like a beach bar, like a private beach bar in the hotel. And we went down there, and it was fucking unbelievable. And Nigel had said, "Listen, free bar tonight." So I was ordering like 50 Jaeger bombs. I was saying to the waitress, I was like, 50 Jaeger bombs, sort of carrying on my head into the lads. And there was loads of cheer. It was just fucking funny, mate. And those types of nights just like bring teams together. And I think because we had that so early on as a new group of players, we'd signed a number of players. It just made us a tighter group of players. And we've got a good changing room, mate. And it's a good club there, mate, I must say.
Who's the owner? Did you say, or the chairman or the owner? Was it Nigel? Yeah, right. I want to be sure about this, right? Because there's a lot of people who see that, because a lot of people always ask about Bala, where they're getting their money from, you know? It's like, where's it coming from? And someone mentioned Disney, right? Saying that he owns the rights to Disney. Is that true? He owns the right to or franchise of Disney? To
be honest, I haven't heard about the Disney thing. He owns his own massive pajama company. So he manufactures pajamas and has like huge like deals, I think, like with Tesco, and I think that's how he sort of made his money. I mean, what I will say, he's a workaholic. He's our kit man as well, the chairman. He doesn't let anyone touch his kit. He likes to set the kit out. He does all the balls and whatnot, and he works hard, mate. He's a lovely bloke, Nigel. I've got an awful lot of time for him. But that's how he makes his money. I mean, thankfully, Bala have qualified in Europe over the last few years, so it sort of pay for the wages there, I'd imagine. But yeah, pajamas, mate. I think he's made his money on.
Oh my god! Because the funny thing is that because you hear, you know, when people want to invest into a football club, especially in Welsh football, right, you want to know where the money comes from, where their money comes from, because, you know, if you're investing into a club. And the funniest thing about it is that we were having a conversation about it, and someone said, "Oh, I think he owns the Disney franchise for the UK." And someone just shouted out,
I've never heard it.
Someone just shouted out, "Well, in 3 years, Bala are going to win the title in 5 years. I'm telling you that now." And I thought I wouldn't blame him. So, oh, but fair play though. Pajamas. Oh, see if I can get an order for one.
Get it in. Ackroyd pajamas.
Oh man! So, can you tell us a little bit more about with the players, especially Chris Venables? You know, because he's been the talk of the Welsh Premier League, not just talk of the town, talk of the Welsh Premier League, because of how brilliant he is at playing. You know, so I know we briefly talked about him before, you know, the recording of the podcast. So, what's he like to be around, and especially as a player? I mean, what's he like to be? Yeah,
great guy, Venice. I didn't know him particularly well, if I'm honest, before joining Bala. Sorry, but there's sort of no surprise why he's done so well. He's a sort of such a top professional, even at playing in a part-time league. He looks after himself very well, and I know it's quite cliche, but he's always doing extras after the training, finishing and whatnot. Always sort of looking after his nutrition after the game and whatnot. And he's, I don't know how old Venice is. I think he's 35 now, but there's not an ounce of fat on him. You look at him and you think, fucking hell, like, there's not an ounce of fat on him. He looks after himself so well, and there's no surprise why he's done so well in the league and why he's scored that many goals in the league. But in terms of a character, he's not, I wouldn't say he's the loudest in the changing room, but he is very funny, like comes out with some dry, witty comments, like one-liners that are just fucking golden. It has all the lads in stitches. But I think the good thing about Venice is, although he's not maybe the loudest in the changing room, if he needs to say something or something needs to be said, he's always the one to do that. And obviously, as you'd expect, being the captain, but he top bloke, really, really nice bloke, very down to earth, and just all round top bloke.
Is there any particular character from the clubs you played at have stood out for you? Is there one that particularly goes, yeah, he was funny to play with or to be around? Which one would that be?
Do you know, there's some good lads at Caernarfon. I get on really well with Gaz Edwards, who plays at Caernarfon now, the centre half, the big tall centre half, and he is so funny, mate. Honestly, I think he's one of the best guys I've had in the changing room. In all the changing rooms I've had, he's just fucking hilarious. Gets the lads going, like good on a night out, good organizer, good captain. he's probably the standout for me just because he's so fucking funny. But there's some good lads at Bala, like Casey, Anthony. Kay obviously played hundreds of league games. He's fucking funny in the changing room, mate. He's got some stories and whatnot, and he's like a little kid. He's like all these little kiddie jokes, although he's sort of 37, 38. He's the biggest kid in the changing room. Honestly, I can't say a bad word about the lads at Bala. They're such nice lads. And unfortunately, bar the Malta night, we haven't actually had a night out yet just because of COVID restrictions. Yeah. But I'm sure when we manage to get our jeans and polos on, we'll be going at it.
With all the Luke tops or the Stone Island stuff. Yeah, go on.
Well, yeah, not my sort of clobber, but I'm sure some of them wear a Stone Island jumper.
You know what? The one player for Caernarfon that always stands up for me, and my dad and my uncle is a huge Everton fan, and that's Nathan Craig, who played for Everton, but he is Mr. Caernarfon, and I imagine he was an important part of the let's see, not just the squad but the family at Caernarfon. What was he like to be around, especially coming from Everton, and he's at home but he's a Caernarfon boy, so of course he's going to be influential, but what was he like to be in the club and especially in the squad with you guys?
Yeah, he's a really nice guy, Nathan. I'll be honest, like he's not the most vocal captain I've ever had. In my first couple of seasons he was captain. He's quite quiet, if I'm honest. Keeps himself to himself. But again, if something needs to be said, he'll say it. I guess why he was so good at Caernarfon is because he worked in the community. So he had that link between encouraging younger fans to come and watch Caernarfon because he was working in the community with a number of schools and clubs and whatnot. So he was good for the club in that respect, and obviously on the pitch, I think Nathan would probably tell you himself he's probably underachieved. I think technically he's one of the best players I've played with. Nathan Craig, his left foot is like a fucking wand. I think he's bagged a couple of free kicks against Barry actually off the top of my head. I think.
Don't talk to me about that.
Yeah, I think
yes, he has.
So, but no, he's good, mate. Like I said, he keeps himself to himself. He's not one of the lively characters in the group, but I'm sure if you get a couple of WKDs or Smirnoffs down him, he'll give you a couple of dance moves, maybe. I don't know, but I'm yet to see it anyway.
I want to know about this because recently I was on Twitter, and I think it was the game that you played against TNS, and I was on Twitter, and my good friend of mine, Nick Layton, shout out to you, Nick. He said to me, "Oh, have you seen what's said on Twitter?" I went, "Oh, I don't know what's when I said being on Twitter, because there's loads of things that can happen on social media." And then it was it Lee Molyneux or something like that, and he called out TNS and Anna Moscow. What was that about then? What was going on?
I don't think I'm speaking out of turn, but I'll fucking tell you anyway. But it was a bit of a strange one, really. I get on quite well with Roscoe. I spent a little bit of time in Cardiff because I know Will Evans, so I spent some nights out there and met him and whatnot. But from what I gather anyway, I think he'd sort of, in footballing terms, cashed off Johnny Spittle. So I think he'd made a remark about how much money he's on and maybe getting more money than a Bala player. And that doesn't go down well with any level, at any sort of level, let alone the Welsh Prem, when no one's on extortionate amounts of money. So I think a few of the lads had a bit of a dig at him on the pitch and sort of got onto him. And Lee Molyneux's played 400 league games. So he's probably not dealt with that an awful lot, and he's played a much higher level than most Welsh Premier League players. So I was a little bit surprised to see the tweet, if I'm honest. I haven't actually seen if it's got much reaction or whatnot. I think it probably did, but it was just. I don't think there's any sort of harm in it from Adam Roscoe, if I'm honest. I think it was just sort of a spear of the moment thing, and I don't think there's any sort of there was no harm meaning of it at all. So. But yeah, it was a bit of a strange one to see it on Twitter anyway.
No, I was, in all fairness, I was a bit surprised, because I love a bit of drama, me, so I love to see what goes on Twitter, especially at the football games anyway, and, but I wanted to know about, your personal opinions, because with the Welsh Premier League, because I do get a lot of people around Barry or maybe in Cardiff or something, right? It's the attitude towards the Welsh Premier League sometimes doesn't get enough respect in some ways because of where it stands. You get Cardiff, Swansea, Wrexham, Newport and maybe Merthyr, you know, they're playing in the English league systems, and obviously no disrespect to Merthyr, but it's like you see Cardiff and Swansea, they're always up there. And then you got Wrexham and Newport hovering around in the conference or the lower League Two. But it just seems to me, it's like every time I mention it could be happening to Caernarfon fans, and that's why I always give them a lot of credit, because they always stick to their guns and follow Caernarfon. But it's always that look down upon, you know, oh, you support that team. Well, it's no good, it's crap. So how have you ever, you know, come across anyone who had that attitude, and how do you always defend the league in any way? You know, if you had to...
I agree. I think from the outside in, maybe the Welsh Premier League is looked... It doesn't paint itself in a good light at times, whether or not that's because there's just been little instances that hasn't helped the league, like the kit clashes and getting postponed and little things like that wouldn't happen in the football league. It happens in the Welsh Prem, and I just don't think it paints itself in a good picture. But I'll defend the league. I'll defend the league if anyone slags it off, just because I think it is a good league. Like I said earlier in the conversation, there's better players coming into the league certainly every year, and the standard is getting better. I mean, what the league needs to sort of go to the next level is we need some more European wins, no doubt. We need sort of TNS or Connah's Quay or even Bala to sort of get through a Champions League round or get through a couple of European rounds, just to sort of paint the league in a better picture, really. So it's always a tough one, mate, isn't it? Like it's never... I think the league's got a reputation of not being a particularly good league. Why that is, I'm unsure, really. So, but no, you're right. It's like I'm happy to sort of stick up for it when needed, definitely.
Yeah. Did you had a call up for the Welsh C squad? Is that right? Because what was that like to be around? Because obviously you got some Bala players, then obviously Caernarfon and TNS, and Connah's Quay and Barry. So what was that like to be around in that changing rooms then?
That was good, mate. I really enjoyed that. I wasn't actually expecting the call up. There's some really good Welsh goalkeepers in the Welsh Prem, and I wasn't actually expecting the call up. I just got into the Welsh Prem back with Caernarfon, and Jonah actually pulled me before that, playing that Welsh Cup game at Bangor. He actually pulled me and sort of said, "Listen, congratulations, I'm going to pick you and whatnot." And again, I wasn't going there thinking I was going to start. Ashley Morris was there, who's obviously played in the Wales C stuff before, so when I knew I was starting, it was really, really good. I mean, it was a bit of a weird one because there's so many mixes of players. There was Barry lads and there was Caernarfon lads and Bala lads. It was all over the shop. But we actually did okay in the game. I personally didn't. I had a fucking stinker for the second goal, but we actually drew 2 each. But it was a good game to play in. Like, England were a good side. We played at Salford. So, mate, I really enjoyed that, and I was lucky enough to be called up the year after. But obviously, when COVID struck, then it was no more. So hopefully I've done enough, although I haven't had a particularly good season in my opinion. I think I've sort of done enough to maybe knock on the door, but I know other keepers have sort of stepped up this year, and they've got some really, really good keepers in the league. So we'll see, mate.
So final question, and I just want to say thank you again for coming on Dragon's Voice podcast. Really enjoyed it. So my final cliche question of the podcast is, how do you look back on your career?
Oh, that's a good one. I wish you'd told me that one, so I had a bit of I had planned. Maybe a bit of an up and down career personally. I mean, I sort of stopped playing when I was 23, 24 to take up a role at Swansea Academy full time, which I regret in the fact that I had to stop playing, but I think I've achieved quite a lot in my. I think I've played about 125, 130 Welsh Premier League games, and hopefully I'm only 27 now, so hopefully I'll be able to sort of play until another sort of 7-8 years within the league. So, how would I look back in my career? I'd say eventful, fun, and God knows what the thing is, but all I try and do is kick it as far as I can, really, mate. So. No, listen, I've had a good career. I've really enjoyed it. I've played some top clubs, as we've spoken about. I've really enjoyed it. Met some great people within Welsh football that I'm lucky enough to keep in contact with now. Some of my best mates play within the Welsh Premier League, so I'm lucky enough, and that's what the league's given me. Do you know what I mean? The league's given me a really good platform professionally, and it's also given me a good platform to build some really good friendships with within my life. So I'm very thankful for the league for that. And it's also given me plenty of howlers. I've made a number of howlers within the league, and I've also had some good games. So up and down, mate, I'd describe it. But I've thoroughly enjoyed my appearances within the Welsh Premier League. Can't speak highly enough of the league.
Alex, thank you so much for coming on the Dragon's Voice podcast. It means a lot. So all the very best with Bala. And even though this is pre-recorded, so I don't know what's going to happen afterwards, but all the very best this Saturday. So I'll see you then. So, but
I appreciate it.
But anyway, guys, thank you so much. That was Alex Ramsay on the Dragon's Voice podcast, and make sure you give a like, share, subscribe to the channel. It's growing, it's going by the minute, and I'm really enjoying it. But I'll try my very best to get as many guests on the show as much as possible. Make sure you follow me on Podbean as well. All the podcasts up to date are on there, so don't worry, guys, about even Spotify or just trying to listen to it on YouTube. It's there for you on Podbean wherever you go, wherever you are. I know with COVID you can't really go places, but hopefully wherever you are you can listen to that. Give a follow on Twitter, like on Facebook, and I'll see you all very soon. Take care.